Welcome to the Natural Way of Being video blog. My name is Michael Hoffman, and today I want to talk about a term called emotional labor. Now, originally this was a term of kind of how service industry people needed to put a smile on their face even when someone was being rude to them, or that putting on a happy face or a cheerful affect that requires, pulling up that energy requires emotional labor. And it also has been tied to having to do emotional labor could lead to burnout, etc. I want to talk about it in a different sense. And this is a little more, I heard it first with Seth Godin, a marketing guru and blog guy that uses it. And where I want to use it in is like the effort that it requires, like making a decision or being close and intimate and present in a relationship. Like, what does the emotional effort required underneath that? Is there a fear in there, okay, that we don't want to deal with? Is there a sad feeling that we don't want to feel? Is there a feeling we don't want to feel? And so, therefore, to deal with this issue, this thing in a relationship, or to deal with this decision we need to make, or a commitment we need to make, we might put it off. We might procrastinate. Procrastination, in my opinion, is often because there's big emotional labor behind it. Okay, so the whole point of this blog is to find the strength and the willingness and the kind of the initiative to kind of see if there are any decisions or things that you would be good for you to address in your life that you've been putting off or not making, or kind of making half-heartedly. Or sometimes we make these decisions by default. We don't make the decision, and then the decision almost makes itself, which is not very, it's not very proactive. It's not very conscious. It's pretty passive. So let's talk about it. It's like, so the first thing is to become aware of it. So it's like noticing like something that it's like, I really need to deal with this, but I just been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So it's like, and so then it's like beginning an inquiry and just saying, so what is it? Is it a feeling I don't want to feel? Was often, hence emotional labor, right? Is it a fear I don't want to deal with? Is it a risk I don't want to take? Okay, could I lose something by making this commitment or pulling the trigger on this decision? So those are the three areas that I really suggest you start feeling, okay? Fear and risk. Those are usually the things that are involved in these emotional labor. And so my suggestion is, it's a great time of year. It's always a good time of year, but now especially we're kind of clearing any residual things before the new spring and our new cycle starts here. So it's a really good time to kind of take an inventory and address this. And to do it, it's going to require some dynamic energy, some yang energy. And whether we're in whatever gender our body is, okay, and however we identify ourselves as masculine or feminine or, non-binary, or however we identify ourselves, my theory is we have dynamic energy, which is more yang, and we have receptive energy, which is more yin or feminine, and the yang dynamic being more masculine. And so however we identify our gender, it's like we all have access to these energies, and it's not just one. There's like a whole continuum of dynamic and feminine. So this is more of a dynamic energy. Okay, it's more yang. It could be called masculine energy. It's like the willingness to take initiative, the willingness to be decisive. Okay, and it's like, and the willingness to, it's like warrior energy, you could say. It's like warrior energy. It's like pulling up that dynamic energy and that warrior energy. Is like, I'm going to deal with this. Part of me wants to run away. I've been putting it off for a long time, but I need to deal with this. And we may see maybe it's something in a relationship, and you see that I need to have this talk. I need to be honest with this person, my mate, someone I'm dating, a coworker, a parent, a child. I'm in this. I need to address this. So it's like the warrior energy, the dynamic energy, is what we use to take initiative. It's like, I'm not going to put this off any longer. I am going to address this. Okay. So the first thing is like we have to address something in a relationship. So then it really helps to know what the emotional labor required is. What is the resistance? Is it fear? Is it feeling something, that I don't want to feel? Is it risky? Might I lose something? If I talk about this issue in a relationship, might I lose the relationship? Okay, and is it risky that way? But yet, I don't feel like I can stay in my integrity, be true to myself, is how I've been defining integrity these days, like our last video, for instance. Can I still be true to myself if I don't address this? No, I can't. So therefore, I need to address this. Therefore, I'm going to need to take a risk and make a decision to do this. That's yang energy. That's dynamic energy. And my suggestion is find that in your heart, and draw on that warrior energy to do whatever it takes to address this. Because your mind and your fear and all that will have all kinds of reasons not to address it, which is what we've been likely succumbing to. Okay, so it's like figuring out what's scary about it, and then kind of thinking about a way, kind of planning, if you will. Usually it doesn't always go the way we planned it, but to kind of plan really a way to address it. Okay, and if it's in a relationship, it's like, well, let's, what do I want to do? Is it an evening? Where is it going to be? Is it in this person's house? That is in my house? That is in a public place? Is it a coffee shop that's more neutral? Like where's the best place to deal with this? And and to really do some preparation, and then to just kind of course, and then, if you're like me, you'll make these little scripts and all this stuff, right? But then when it gets right down to it, it just is going to come out the way it's going to come out. Okay. It's good to be prepared. Okay. But then also to kind of flow with it. And I've done this even where I've had some of these that needed to be so specific. I did have some notes, and I even said, look, it's not like me, but I'm bringing some notes. And usually when I do notes, I like bullet points. I don't like following the written script. You look at the bullet point. It's like when you're doing a speech or something. It's like you look at the bullet point. It just says integrity. It's like, okay, and then you just talk about that. Okay, and it's like, whatever. It's like I've been having weird feelings. Okay, then we talk about that. So we don't read it from the script, but we could have like a bullet point thing to make sure that we got everything. And people don't normally notice that. They don't like it typically when you read to them. But if you're kind of I want to make sure I have everything. And oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to talk about is blah, 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 blah. That's something you could do. But when you get to do it, it's just like all that matters is that it gets done. Okay, it's like just do it the best you can, as honestly as you can. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't need to over-explain it. Okay, which is I can tend to over-explain things. Sometimes you may have noticed maybe I'm over-explaining some things in some blogs. But like sometimes it's good to just sometimes it's good to just say it, and often this is kind of one of the things that comes on is a fear of hurting the other person's feelings, okay? And this is where we get into some kind of codependency type things. Often emotional labor is what's required to break through codependency, and so we have to, and the risk and the fear and the feeling, the three things I mentioned before, are all like, oh my gosh, am I going to hurt this person's feelings? I care about them. And, how is it going to affect them? Or is it going to screw up the relationship that I have or screw up the friendship? But it's like, it's a risky thing and it requires emotional labor. So I think I've kind of covered it. The last thing I want to talk about is in making a decision. It's like the other way we see this is in a tendency to defer a decision or defer a commitment, defer a decision. And again, decisiveness is kind of a more yang and dynamic energy, right? It's like being willing to just make the decision, research it well, do your work, really do your inquiry, really evaluate it, pros and cons, all that stuff. And then, when it's time to make the decision, you step up, and you make the decision. You pull the trigger. You like go past that commitment. And it's just like, whatever it brings, so be it. But I need to make this decision, and maybe I'll find out that this is a wrong or right decision, but I need to make this decision, and so, my teacher used to say, I'm going to do something even if it's wrong, I'm just going to do this, because it's like, I've done my best. This is my best information to make. This is my best decision that I can make on this issue now. And I've done it, and now I'm just procrastinating, so I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to let the chips fall as they may. And that takes a lot of courage, right? It takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of courage. But when we kind of address these things, whether it be in relationship or decision or career or whatever, or in business, maybe it's a juncture in our life, choosing this or that, something has opportunity cost. If I do this, it means I can't do that. It's like often there's opportunity cost involved. And so it's just, when we finally do this, it like really reduces, it's a relief, okay? Because it feels like we're back in our integrity again. I'm back being true to myself again, because I'm living more authentically. I'm living more honestly, because this has been bothering me. Now I've addressed it. Now I'm free. There's a lot of freedom on the backside and a lot of relief. And then we aren't avoiding things. We feel better about ourselves. It's more self-esteem, more peace, all kinds of benefit. But it is challenging. And the last thing I'll say is, when you're doing this process, have compassion for yourself, because it is it does, we've avoided this for a long time. The emotional labor is not easy, and so by making this decision, we may have we may have trouble sleeping at night. We may be a mess for a week, as we make this decision, and the warrior and that dynamic energy is willing to go through that. It doesn't cave when it gets tough. It's like, okay, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't go back to sleep because my mind is just going on this thing. It's like, we'll stay with it. I guess I'll get up and, whatever, watch some silly show on TV or read for a little bit and then try to go back to sleep. Or maybe I'll just go up and do some journaling, So it's taking care of business. And knowing that it might rock your world a bit. It already has been, but when we get into the emotional labor and address the emotional labor, and we make the decision, it brings it all up, and it can be troubling, and it could increase our anxiety in the short run. Know that it's an investment, and that after you're done, you'll have reduced anxiety, and you'll have reduced this kind of lingering anxiety that's always been in the background. It gets brought to the surface, and then when you make this decision, it gets released. So that is my video blog. It got a little longer than I expected, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing week. And as you go through your week, maybe just identify some things that might have some emotional labor, some things that might have some feeling or some fear or some risk that you've been maybe procrastinating on. and then just even start about the idea. It's like, well, how might I bring this up and deal with it? And even just not, not force yourself to do it. Just even think about the idea of that. What would that look like? And how scary would that be? And are these fears even all real? Sometimes you get done with these and it's like, oh my gosh, what was the big deal? Why didn't I make that a year ago? Sometimes it ends up being not as scary as you think it is. But anyway, that is my video blog. I hope you enjoy your week, and I will see you in a week.